I signed the deed to the beach house on a Tuesday, convinced I had finally purchased my own peace. After a quiet, painful divorce, Seabourn Cove was meant to be my sanctuary. I even taped a list of strict boundaries inside the kitchen cabinet. Then my sister, Tessa, called. She didn't ask if I was settled. She just chirped. "I'm coming with 12 friends," and I felt the old, familiar trap snap shut. The key felt heavy in my palm, a jagged piece of brass that weighed more than its physical mass suggested. It weighed as much as the last 5 years of my life. I stood on the porch of the cottage, the salt air of Seabourn Cove sticking my shirt to my back, and I just breathed. I breathed in the smell of drying kelp, of wet sand, of cedar shingles warming in the late afternoon sun. I breathed out the stale, recycled air of the divorce lawyer's office, the sterile scent of the hospital waiting room where I had spent too many nights with my mother, and the suffocating perfume of the life I was leaving behind in the city. This was it, my reset button. The house was not a mansion. It was a weathered, gray-shingled bungalow that sat 3 streets back from the actual ocean. But if you stood on the very tips of your toes in the upstairs bedroom, you could see a sliver of blue between the dunes. It cost me nearly every cent I had salvaged from the separation settlement and my own savings. My ex-husband, frantic to keep the oversized colonial in the suburbs, had bought me out, and I had taken the check and run. I turned the key. The lock tumbled with a satisfying, mechanical thunk. Inside, the house smelled like lemon oil and old wood. It was silent. Not the lonely silence of an empty apartment where you are waiting for someone to come home who never will, but the pregnant, peaceful silence of a library before it opens. It was a silence that belonged to me. I dropped my bag on the floor. I walked into the kitchen, which had yellow laminate countertops that peeled slightly at the corners, and I felt a surge of affection for every flaw. I was 33 years old, and for the first time since I was 20, I did not have to ask anyone what they wanted for dinner. I did not have to check a shared calendar. I did not have to manage a crisis. I opened the cabinet above the stove. It was empty, save for a roll of shelf liner the previous owner had left. I reached into my purse and pulled out a folded piece of notebook paper and a roll of Scotch tape. I had written this list 3 nights ago, sitting on a packing box, drinking lukewarm wine from a paper cup. I smoothed the paper onto the inside of the cabinet door and taped it down. 1. No guests for 30 days, no exceptions. 2. No hosting. You are not a bed and breakfast. 3. No family drama. The phone is a tool, not a leash. 4. Heal. I read it aloud. My voice sounded thin in the empty room. Heal. It felt like a command I wasn't sure how to follow, but I was going to try. I had spent a decade being the reliable one, the steady Stella, the one who absorbed the shock so everyone else could ride smooth. My marriage had ended because I had simply run out of pieces of myself to give away, and my husband had found someone with a fuller inventory. I walked out to the back deck. The wind was picking up. I closed my eyes, letting the sun hit my face. Then, my phone buzzed against my hip. I ignored it. It buzzed again, and again, a long, demanding vibration that drilled into my hip bone. I pulled it out. The screen lit up with a photo I had taken years ago. My sister, Tessa, laughing with her head thrown back, holding a glass of champagne, looking radiant and dangerous. I stared at the screen. The rule, "The phone is a tool, not a leash," flashed in my mind, but old habits are etched into the neural pathways deeper than any new promise. I slid my thumb across the screen. "Hello, Tessa," I said. "Stella." Her voice was a high-pitched assault, breathless and glittering. "Oh my God, you're there, aren't you? You're at the house. Tell me everything. Is it hideous? Is it charming? Does it smell like dead fish?" "It's perfect," I said, keeping my voice level. "It's quiet. Good, good. I love that for you," she said, rushing past my words. "Listen, I have the most amazing news. You are going to die." I leaned against the railing. "What is it?" "So, Remember how I told you things have been weird with the whole breakup fallout? How I needed a win? Well, I fixed it. I'm coming to see you. My stomach dropped. A cold, physical sensation, like swallowing ice. Tessa, I started, and she continued, barreling over me. I'm bringing the girls. It's going to be this epic, healing, girls-only weekend. Just us. Some wine. The ocean. We need this. Stella, you need this. The girls? I asked. The wind seemed to stop. How many people? Tessa? She laughed. A tinkling, fragile sound. Oh, don't go panic mode on me. It's small. Just 12 of us. Maybe 13 if Chloe brings her sister. But she probably won't. We'll barely be there. We just need a crash pad between beach events. 12? I repeated. The number hung in the air. Absurd and terrifying. Tessa, no. What do you mean? No. I mean no. I just walked in the door. I have one bathroom. I have no furniture in the guest room. I am not hosting 12 people. There was a silence on the other end. It wasn't an empty silence. It was the sharp intake of breath before a weapon is drawn. Stella, Tessa said, her voice dropping an octave, losing the sparkle. This isn't just a hang. I promised them. You promised them my house? I promised them a venue. Do you have any idea what I've been dealing with? The press from the breakup? I need to look like I'm thriving. I need this content. Content. I said, the word tasting like acid. Tessa, I bought this place to get away from exactly this. I have rules. I wrote them down. No guests. You're being selfish. She snapped. The speed of the pivot made me dizzy. After everything I did for you during the divorce? Who took you out for drinks? Who listened to you cry about Mark for 6 months? You listened for 10 minutes, I thought, before turning the conversation back to your modeling portfolio. But I didn't say that. The guilt hook snagged me, right in the soft underbelly where she knew it would hold. I appreciate that, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. But I can't do it. There are hotels in town. I can send you a list. I don't have budget for hotels. Stella! She sounded tearful now, the victimhood rising like a tide. I told them you offered. I told them my big sister was saving the day. If I cancel now, I look like a failure. Do you want me to look like a failure? I closed my eyes. I could hear the ocean roaring in the distance. Indifferent to my petty human struggles, I am not doing this. Tessa, I said, do not come. Do not bring 12 strangers to my home. Fine, she whispered. Fine. Be that way. Be the bitter divorcee alone in her sad little shack. See how that feels. She hung up. I stood there, the phone warm in my hand, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I had said no. I had actually said no. It felt exhilarating, like stepping off a ledge and realizing I could fly. But beneath the exhilaration, there was a deep, nauseating tremor. I knew my sister. I knew that tone. That wasn't a concession. That was a retreat to regroup. I went back inside and locked the back door. Then I checked the front door. Then I checked the windows. I needed air that didn't feel like a confrontation. I walked out the front door and down the crushed shell driveway to the mailbox, just to have a destination. A woman was standing at the edge of the property line, pruning a massive hydrangea bush with aggressive, violent snips. She looked to be in her 60s, wearing denim overalls and a t-shirt that said, "I'm retired. Ask someone else." She had a face carved from granite, deep lines around eyes that saw everything and excused nothing. She stopped snipping and looked at me. "You the new one?" she asked. Her voice was like sandpaper. "Yes," I said. "I'm Stella. Mina Caldwell," she said, pointing the shears at herself. "I'm a nurse, night shift. Usually. I sleep during the day. If you play loud music before 4 in the afternoon, I will hose you down." I smiled. A genuine, tired smile. "I promise. No loud music. I came here for quiet." She eyed me, looking me up and down, assessing the tension in my shoulders. "You look like you ran a marathon in bad shoes." "Something like that." I said, Just a long year. I heard you on the phone, she said. My face went hot. You could hear that? Sound carries over the dunes, she said, snipping a dead bloom. And you weren't exactly whispering. Sister? Yes. She wants something. Everything. I said, she wants to bring 12 friends here for the weekend. Mina snorted. 12? In that bungalow? You'd blow the septic tank in 6 hours. I told her no. I said, but I don't think she heard me. People like that don't hear no, Mina said. She turned back to the bush. They hear, try harder. They test the fence the minute they see it. If there's a loose board, they're coming through. I looked back at my house. It looked fragile suddenly. The windows looked like eyes that couldn't close. What do I do? I asked. Mina looked at me. You lock the gate. And you don't open it, no matter how much they cry, because once they're in, you'll never get them out. I went to the hardware store an hour later. I felt ridiculous. Pushing a cart down the aisle with a heavy-duty electronic keypad deadbolt and a set of battery-operated security cameras. I was in a safe, sleepy beach town. The crime rate was virtually zero, but Mina's words were rattling around in my skull. They test the fence. I spent the rest of the afternoon installing the lock. I wasn't handy, but fear is a powerful motivator. I drilled the holes, sweating, stripping one of the screws, and having to curse it back out with pliers. When I finally punched in the code, my birthday, simple and stupid, and heard the bolt slide home. I felt a shameful wave of relief. I was locking my sister out. My own blood. The little girl I used to walk to the bus stop. She's not a little girl. I told myself, she's a 30-year-old woman who thinks no is a negotiating tactic. I set up the cameras next, one facing the driveway, one facing the back deck. They connected to my phone with a ping. I stared at the grainy, wide-angle view of my own driveway. It felt paranoid. It felt neurotic. It feels necessary. A voice inside me whispered. The sun began to dip, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange. A brown UPS truck rumbled down the quiet street, the brakes squealing as it pulled up to my curb. The driver jogged up the walk with a small box. Delivery for Wright? He asked. That's me, I said, surprised. I hadn't ordered anything yet. He scanned the box, handed it to me, and jogged back to the truck. I took it into the kitchen. The return label was from a printing company in New Jersey. I sliced the tape with a paring knife. Inside were 50 neon pink silicone wristbands. I pulled one out. It smelled like cheap rubber factory air. Printed on the side in bold, white font was Seabourn Weekend Pass. I turned it over. On the inside, in smaller letters, VIP guest, the Wright House. My hands started to shake. This wasn't a whim. This wasn't Tessa deciding 10 minutes ago to call me. This had been ordered days ago, weeks, maybe. She had printed passes. She had branded my home. I looked at the quantity. 50? She had said 12. I grabbed my phone. I didn't call. I couldn't trust my voice not to crack. And if she heard me crack, she would pounce. I typed a text, my fingers hitting the keys hard. I just got the wristbands. Tessa, this is insane. Do not come. This is not a venue. I am locking the door. I watched the 3 little dots appear immediately. She was looking at her phone. The dots vanished. Then, a single notification popped up, a heart emoji, then, a second message. You'll loosen up once we're there. Don't be a buzzkill. It wasn't a reassurance. It was a threat wrapped in casual sister speak. It meant, I am ignoring your boundary because I know you won't enforce it. I sat on the floor of the kitchen, surrounded by the smell of lemon oil and the looming dark. I felt sick. A knock on the door made me jump. I scrambled up, my heart seizing. Was she here already? I checked the camera feed on my phone. It wasn't Tessa. It was a man in a navy blazer. I opened the door a crack. Hi, Ms. Wright? It's Vaughn Mercer, the realtor. Oh, I said, exhaling. Hi, Vaughn. Everything okay? Yeah. Just dropping off the spare garage remote. The sellers found it in a junk drawer. He handed me the clicker. He lingered for a second. looking past me into the house. "Settling in okay?" he asked. "Getting there," I said. "Good. Good. Listen, if you need anything, let me know. I know the previous owners had a weird situation here." I froze. "A weird situation?" "Yeah. You know, with the unauthorized rentals, they had some trouble with people listing the place online when they weren't around. Party crowds. That's actually why they sold." "Neighbors got litigious," he laughed nervously. "But I'm sure you won't have that problem. You're a local now." He waved and walked back to his car. I closed the door and locked the new deadbolt. That's why they sold. The house felt different now. It didn't feel like a sanctuary. It felt like a fortress I was frantically trying to reinforce before a siege. I went into the living room and didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the dark, watching the shadows lengthen across the floor. I wanted to cry, but I was too angry to cry. I was angry at Tessa. Yes, but I was furious with myself. I was furious that even here, miles away from my old life, I was still the person people felt comfortable walking over. Not this time. I thought, not this house. I checked the time. 8 o'clock. Maybe she wasn't coming. Maybe my text had actually worked. Maybe she had realized I was serious and diverted the caravan to a hotel in the next town over. Then I heard it. It was faint at first, carried on the wind like Mina had said. Bass. The thumping, rhythmic heartbeat of heavy bass. I went to the window, down the road, where the pavement turned to sand near the public access. Headlights cut through the dark. Not one car. A line of them. 3, maybe 4 SUVs. They weren't at my driveway yet. They were pausing at the turn. My phone buzzed. I looked down. Tessa shared her location with you. The little blue dot on the map wasn't in the city anymore. It was hovering right at the entrance to Seabourn Cove. Then the dot moved. It turned onto my street. A car door slammed outside, loud and sharp like a gunshot. Then a voice, unmistakable and piercing, drifting up from the street. "Okay, ladies, we are here." I stared at the keypad lock on my door. The red light blinked once, a tiny, defiant eye in the darkness. They were here. I walked to the kitchen, grabbed a glass of water, and drank it standing up. My hands were steady now. The trembling had stopped. The anticipation was over. The reality had arrived. I checked the camera feed. A white Range Rover was parked half on my grass. Tessa was stepping out. She was wearing a white linen jumpsuit and oversized sunglasses. Even though it was night, she looked like a celebrity on vacation. She looked like she owned the world. She looked up at the house, right at the camera. Though she couldn't see it, she smiled. I didn't open the door. I waited. The battle for my peace had just begun. I stood by the window, obscured by the curtain, watching the scene unfold on my front lawn. It was like watching a silent film of an invasion. Doors opened on the other SUVs. Women spilled out. Not 12. It looked like more. They were pulling things from the trunks, coolers, massive tote bags, a portable speaker that was already thumping. One of them, a blonde girl holding a bottle of rosé, pointed at my house and squealed. It wasn't a sound of appreciation for architecture. It was the sound of a conqueror claiming territory. Tessa was directing traffic. She pointed to my driveway, then to the grass, directing a second car to park next to the Range Rover, crushing the ornamental grasses I had admired just that morning. My phone rang. "Tessa." I let it ring. It stopped. Then a text. "Open up. We have groceries." I didn't move. I watched Tessa walk up the path to the front door. She didn't knock. She reached for the handle and turned it. It didn't move. She frowned. She tried it again, jiggling it harder. She stepped back, looking confused. She looked at her phone, then at the door. She knocked then, a sharp, authoritative rap, 3 times. "Stella? Stella. Open the door. It's sticking." I took a breath. I walked to the door. I didn't unlock it. I spoke through the wood. "It's not sticking." "Tessa, it's locked." I heard her pause. There was a beat of silence where I knew she was calibrating her performance. "Don't be funny. Stella, it's freezing out here. We have ice cream melting. Open the door." "I'm not opening the door." I said, "I told you not to come." I heard a muffled laugh from one of the other women. Is she serious? Someone asked. Tessa's voice changed. It dropped the playful sister act and went straight to the edge of panic. Stella, open this door right now. Everyone is watching. You are embarrassing me. You embarrassed yourself, I said, leaning my forehead against the cool wood of the door. Go to a hotel. Tessa, I'm not going to a hotel, she hissed. I don't have anywhere else to go. That sounds like a problem, I said. But it's not my problem. Stella, she screamed, and then she kicked the door. A dull thud that vibrated through the frame. I stepped back. The violence of it shocked me. Tessa was manipulative. Yes, she was entitled, but she wasn't physical. I checked the camera feed again. The other women were looking at Tessa now. The party vibe was faltering. Tessa turned to them, her face composing itself instantly into a mask of apologetic charm. She waved a hand dismissively. Sisters, she shouted to the group. She's just pranking us. She's terrified of bugs. She probably thinks we're bringing mosquitoes in. Give us a sec. She turned back to the door, leaning close so her mouth was right near the jamb. Listen to me, she whispered. Her voice was venomous. You are going to open this door, or I am going to make a scene that you will never live down. I will scream. I will tell them you're having a breakdown. I will call Mom. Do you hear me? I heard her. I heard the childhood script perfectly. Give me what I want, or I will destroy your peace. I looked at the kitchen cabinet, where my list was taped. No guests, no hosting, no family drama. I realized then that I couldn't just hide behind the door. If I hid, she controlled the narrative. If I hid, she was right. I was the crazy recluse. I had to face her. I reached for the lock, but I didn't open it. I grabbed the keypad remote I had kept in my pocket. I'm calling the police if you don't leave. I said, You wouldn't. She scoffed. You don't have the guts. Try me. There was a long silence. Then, I heard her footsteps retreat. I looked at the camera. She was walking back to the group. She was laughing. She was gesturing at the house, rolling her eyes. She was spinning a story. I saw her point to the side of the house, toward the back deck. They picked up their bags. They weren't leaving. They were walking around to the back. My stomach twisted. The back door. It had a standard lock. Not the deadbolt. I had locked it, hadn't I? I ran through the kitchen. I saw the handle of the back door turn. It was locked. Thank God. But then I saw a face press against the glass. It wasn't Tessa. It was a stranger. A woman with heavy makeup and a look of pure annoyance. Let us in, she yelled through the glass. This isn't funny. I backed away. They were surrounding the house. I went to the living room window. 2 women were trying to peer in through the blinds. This wasn't a visit. This was a siege. I sat on the sofa, clutching my phone. I could call the police. I should call the police. But the shame held me back. The deep, ingrained shame of involving strangers in family mess. Don't air your dirty laundry, my mother's voice echoed. Fix it quietly. I texted Mina. They're here. They won't leave. Mina replied instantly. Do you want me to come over with the hose? I almost laughed, but it came out as a sob. No, I'm okay. I just needed someone to know. I'm watching, Mina wrote. If they break a window, I'm calling the cops. You don't have to be the bad guy. I'll do it. I stared at the screen. A stranger was offering me more protection than my own sister. Outside, the music got louder. They had set up the speaker on my back deck. I heard a cork pop. They were having the party anyway. On my porch, I walked to the kitchen and turned off the lights. I checked the back door lock one more time. I went upstairs to the bedroom. I could still hear them. The bass thumped through the floorboards. I lay down on the bed, fully clothed. I stared at the ceiling. Tessa thought she could wait me out. She thought I would crack under the pressure of being mean. She thought I would eventually open the door just to stop the noise. She was wrong. I wasn't the same Stella anymore. I had bought this house to find myself. And if I had to find myself in the middle of a war zone, then so be it. I closed my eyes. But I didn't sleep. I listened to the laughter of strangers on my deck. And I planned tomorrow. The sun would rise, and tomorrow I would have to open the door. But tonight, the lock held. And for the first time in my life, the boundary wasn't just a line in the sand, it was a deadbolt. And I was the one holding the key. I woke to the sound of a car door slamming. It was a heavy, decisive sound that cut through the thin veil of sleep I had managed to scrape together. The sun was already high, blazing through the sheer curtains I had hung just 2 days ago, turning the room into a box of bright, unforgiving light. I didn't stretch. I didn't have the luxury of a slow morning. I went straight to the window. My stomach turned over. It wasn't just the white Range Rover from the night before. It was a caravan. 3 more cars had joined the fleet, parked haphazardly on the crushed shell verge and spilling over onto the neighbor's grass. It looked like a luxury car dealership had vomited onto my quiet street. People were moving, not aimlessly, but with purpose. I watched a woman in a neon pink bikini top and denim cutoffs haul a massive cooler out of a trunk. Another was carrying a stack of yoga mats. A third was holding a ring light on a tripod, like it was a flag of surrender. And there was Tessa. She was standing in the middle of my driveway, wearing a flowing caftan that caught the wind, pointing at the front porch. She held a coffee cup in one hand and her phone in the other, filming. She looked up, saw the movement of the curtain, and waved. A big, enthusiastic, 2-handed wave. I stepped back, letting the curtain fall. My heart was hammering against my ribs. A frantic bird trapped in a cage. I looked at the clock. It was 9 a.m. I pulled on jeans and a t-shirt. I didn't brush my hair. I didn't want to look prepared. I wanted to look like what I was, a woman whose home was being invaded. I walked down the stairs, the wood cool under my bare feet. I punched the code into the back door, still locked, thank God, and checked the front. I could hear them through the wood. Laughter, the zip of bags opening, the low thump of a bass line starting up from a portable speaker. I opened the front door. The humidity hit me first, thick and salty. Then the noise. The quiet street I had bought for its silence was now a hub of chatter and music. Tessa saw me immediately. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look apologetic. She looked triumphant. "There she is," she shouted, throwing her arms wide. "Our sweet little hostess finally wakes up." She started walking toward me, her smile plastered on like a decal. The group of women, there were at least 12 of them, just as she had threatened, stopped what they were doing and looked at me. They were smiling too, expectant, waiting for the scene to play out. I stayed on the porch. I didn't step down to meet her. I used the elevation as a barrier. "Tessa," I said. My voice was raspy, but loud enough to cut through the music. "What is this?" Tessa reached the bottom step and lowered her voice, though her smile didn't waver. She leaned in, her eyes hard above the grin. "Don't do this, Stella. Everyone is watching. Just say hello." I looked past her. The women were watching, but they weren't watching me. They were looking at their phones, or at each other, or checking their reflections in the car windows. To them, I wasn't a person. I was a plot point. "I told you no." I said, "I told you last night. I told you via text. I'm not hosting this." Tessa laughed, a bright, artificial sound that made my skin crawl. She turned back to the group. "She's just grumpy before coffee," she called out. "Serious sister alert." A few of the women chuckled. One of them, a tall brunette with oversized sunglasses, waved at me. "Hi, Stella. We brought bagels." I didn't wave back. I kept my eyes on Tessa. "You need to leave," I said. "All of you. This is private property." Tessa marched up the steps then, invading my personal space. She smelled of expensive coconut sunscreen and stress sweat. She grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in. "Stop it," she hissed. "You are embarrassing me. These are my friends. We drove 4 hours. You can't just turn us away." I pulled my arm back. "I can, and I am." I took a breath, trying to steady the tremor in my hands. I looked out at the group. I raised my voice. "Listen to me. I am sorry if there was a miscommunication, but this house is not available. It is not a rental. It is not a venue. You cannot stay here." The music stopped. Someone had hit pause. The silence that followed was heavy and awkward. The women exchanged glances. The smiles faltered. "I can send you a list of hotels in town," I said, offering the only compromise I could think of. "There is a Marriott by the highway. There are bed and breakfasts. I will text the numbers to Tessa." Tessa stared at me. Her face went blank for a second. The mask slipping. It wasn't anger I saw. It was panic. She looked at the women, then back at me. "Hotels?" she repeated, her voice rising to a pitch of incredulity. "Stella, don't be ridiculous. Who stays in a Marriott for a beach retreat? We're here for the vibe. We're here for the house." She turned to the crowd, rolling her eyes. "She's joking. Guys, she's overwhelmed. You know how she gets. She's tight. She needs to loosen up." She reached for the door handle behind me. I stepped in front of it. "I am not joking. Tessa." A woman near the back of the group stepped forward. She was younger, maybe 25, holding a canvas tote bag overflowing with branded water bottles. She looked confused. "Wait," she said. Her voice was small. "Is there a problem with the sponsor place?" I thought everything was cleared. The words hung in the air. Sponsor place. Tessa froze. She spun around, her eyes widening. "Arden, it's fine. It's just a sister thing. Grab the cooler." But I had heard it. I looked at the woman. "Arden, what did you say?" I asked. Arden looked at Tessa, then at me. She blushed, realizing she had stepped on a landmine. "Oh, nothing. I just meant the house. You called it the sponsor place," I said. Arden bit her lip. She looked down at her feet. Tessa moved between us, blocking my view of Arden. Okay, she shouted, clapping her hands. "Everyone just take 5. Go check out the dunes. The beach is right there. Stella and I just need a minute to coordinate the logistics." She grabbed my arm again, harder this time, and practically dragged me to the far end of the porch, away from the door and away from the ears of her friends. She cornered me against the railing. Her face was flushed, her chest heaving. "What is wrong with you?" she whispered furiously. "Why are you trying to ruin my life?" "What is a sponsor place?" "Tessa?" I asked. I felt cold, despite the heat. "It's nothing," she said. "It's just, look, I needed to sell the weekend, okay? I couldn't just say, 'Hey, come hang out at my sister's shack.' I had to make it sound elevated. Elevated," I repeated. "Yes, elevated. Since Brad left me, everyone has been waiting for me to fail. They're waiting for me to disappear. I needed to show them I'm still here. I'm still relevant. So you lied to them." "I didn't lie. I embellished. You told them this was a sponsored venue." Tessa looked away, watching her friends wander awkwardly toward the beach path. "It's a partnership," she muttered. "A partnership? With whom?" "With you," she snapped, looking back at me. "You're the partner. You provide the house. I provide the content. We tag the location. You get, I don't know, exposure? Exposure?" I almost laughed. "Tessa, I am a copywriter. I don't need exposure. I need peace. I just got divorced. I just bought this house. I don't want 12 influencers tagging my location. You're so selfish," she spat. The word hit me like a physical blow. It was her favorite weapon. "Selfish?" I asked. "Yes, selfish. You have this whole house to yourself. You have money from the divorce. You have everything. Stella. And I have nothing. Brad took the apartment. He took the friends. I am trying to build something here. I am trying to survive. And you're standing there with your arms crossed, judging me, punishing me because I'm actually trying to live my life." I felt the old guilt rise, a reflex honed over 30 years. Tessa is fragile. Tessa needs help. Tessa is the star. You are the stagehand. I looked at her. Her eyes were wet with tears. Real tears? I couldn't tell anymore. "I'm not punishing you," I said softly. "Then let us in." She pleaded, "Just for the weekend. We'll be gone Sunday morning. I promise. We won't break anything. We'll clean up. Just let me have this win." "Stella, please." I wavered. I felt it. The crack in the foundation. It would be so easy to say yes, to open the door, to let the chaos in and just endure it for 48 hours. It would stop the yelling. It would stop the scene. I looked over the railing. The women were down on the sand now, taking selfies. They looked happy, harmless. But then I saw the wristbands. They were all wearing them. The pink silicone bands I had found in the mail. Seabourn Weekend Pass. It wasn't a family visit. It was a production. And I wasn't a partner. I was a prop. No, I said. Tessa's face hardened. The tears vanished instantly. What? No, I said again, finding my voice. I love you, Tessa. But no, I am not doing this. You lied to them. You lied to me. You need to go down there and tell them the truth. Tell them you didn't book a venue. She stared at me with pure venom. I hate you, she whispered. You've always been jealous of me. You're miserable. Stella, you're a miserable, joyless little person, and you want everyone else to be miserable too. That's why Mark left you. The air left my lungs. Mark hadn't left me because I was miserable. He had left me because he wanted a wife who was a mother, and I wasn't ready. But hearing Tessa weaponize it, hearing her twist my deepest pain into a petty insult, clarified everything. Get off my porch, I said. Or what? She sneered. You're going to physically remove me? Excuse me? The voice came from the driveway. We both turned. Mina Caldwell was standing there. She was wearing her nurse scrubs, purple and wrinkled, like she had just come off a 12-hour shift. She held a garden hose in one hand, coiled like a snake. Is there a problem here, Stella? Mina asked. She didn't look at Tessa. She looked straight at me. Tessa's demeanor changed instantly. She smoothed her hair. She put on a tragic, wobbly smile. Oh, hi, she said, her voice trembling. I'm Tessa, Stella's sister. We're having a little family disagreement. My sister is going through a really hard time right now. Emotionally. She's a bit unstable. I stared at Tessa. She was doing it. She was painting me as the crazy one. Mina didn't smile. She walked up the driveway, her boots crunching on the shells. She stopped at the bottom of the stairs. I heard you ask her to leave, Mina said. Tessa laughed nervously. Well, yes, but it's complicated. It's family. It's trespassing, Mina said. Tessa blinked. Excuse me? I'm a mandated reporter in this county. Honey, Mina said, her voice flat and bored. And I'm also the head of the neighborhood watch. If the homeowner asks you to leave and you don't leave, that's criminal trespass. And since I see about 12 unauthorized vehicles blocking a fire lane, I can probably get the sheriff here in 6 minutes. Tessa's mouth opened and closed. She looked at me, waiting for me to defend her, waiting for me to tell the mean lady to go away. I said nothing. I stood next to the railing, my arms crossed, watching. She's always been mean to me, Tessa said to Mina, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You don't understand. I planned this whole thing for her, to cheer her up, and now she's locking me out. Mina looked at Tessa for a long second, then she looked at the group of women on the beach. You have 10 minutes to move those cars, Mina said, or I make the call. She turned and looked at me. You okay? Stella? Yes, I said. Thank you. Mina? Mina nodded, turned around, and walked back to her house. She didn't look back. Tessa stood there, vibrating with rage. She looked at me one last time. You're going to regret this, she said. She turned and stormed down the stairs, marching toward the beach to rally her troops. I didn't wait to watch. I went inside and locked the door. I spent the next hour pacing the living room, staying away from the windows. I could hear them outside. They hadn't left. They had moved the cars. Mina's threat had worked that far, but they hadn't left Seabourn Cove. I saw them through the slats of the blinds. They were carrying the coolers and bags down the street, toward a large 3-story rental house on the corner. It was a known party house, a place that cost $5,000 a week in the off-season. Tessa must have panic-booked it. She must have thrown down a credit card she couldn't pay off. Just to save face. My phone was silent. No texts from Tessa. That scared me more than the barrage. I sat down at the kitchen island and opened my laptop. I needed to know what I was dealing with. I typed Tessa Hale Seabourn Cove into the search bar. Nothing. I typed Seabourn Reset Weekend. A hit. It was an Instagram story. Posted 2 hours ago. It was from Arden Pike's account. I clicked it. The video showed the caravan of cars driving down the highway. Music was blasting. Text overlay read, "Here we go. Seabourn Reset sponsor trip." I clicked the next story. It was a photo of my house, taken from the street. The caption read, "The venue is giving coastal grandma chic. So ready to heal." The Seabourn House. I stared at the tag. The Seabourn House. I clicked it. It was a profile, a public profile. The Seabourn House Luxury Wellness Retreat. Content Studio, Seabourn Cove. NJDM for booking inquiries. There were 6 posts. All of them were photos of my house. I felt the blood drain from my face. The photos weren't cell phone shots. They were high-resolution professional photos. They were the photos from the real estate listing when I bought the place. The ones Vaughn, the realtor, had taken. I scrolled through the comments. OMG stunning. How much for a weekend? Is this the place Tessa was talking about? Can we book for July? I looked at the bio again. There was a link. It went to a landing page that said, "Coming soon." This wasn't just a weekend party. This was a business. Tessa had built a business around my home before I had even signed the closing papers. I grabbed my phone and called Vaughn. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, Stella. Everything okay?" "Vaughn," I said, my voice shaking. "Did you give the listing photos to anyone?" "What? No. Why?" "Because they are on Instagram. Someone created a profile for my house. They're calling it a rental." Vaughn was silent for a moment. That's weird. I mean, the photos are public on Zillow until we archive the sale. But you can't just use them. That's copyright infringement. I'm looking at them. "Vaughn, someone is taking bookings." "Who?" he asked. "My sister." I said. There was a long pause. "Stella," Vaughn said, his voice serious. "I should tell you. When we were in escrow, your sister called the office." "She did?" "Yeah. She said she was your property manager. She asked for the floor plans and the high-res image files. She said you needed them for insurance." "And you gave them to her?" I thought it was legit. She had your file number. She knew the closing date. I'm sorry. Stella, I thought she was helping you." I closed my eyes. She tests the fence. "It's okay." "Vaughn," I said quietly. "I'll handle it." I hung up. I looked at the Instagram account again. It had 300 followers. It was growing. I reported the account for impersonation. I reported the photos for copyright violation. Instagram's automated system sent me a polite message saying they would review my request within 48 hours. 48 hours. By then, Tessa would have spun a whole new narrative. I walked to the window. The sun was setting now. The sky was a bruised purple. Down the street, at the big rental house, the lights were blazing. I could hear music. It was louder now. I saw silhouettes on the top deck. Dancing, drinking. I looked at my own house. It was dark. I hadn't turned on a single light. I felt like prey hiding in a burrow. I went to the front door and checked the lock again. I checked the back door. I checked the windows. I went into the kitchen and turned off the under-cabinet lights. I sat in the dark living room, listening. My phone buzzed. I looked down. A notification from Instagram. "Tessa Hale _official mentioned you in a story." I didn't want to look, but I had to. I opened it. It was a video of Tessa. She was sitting on a white couch in the rental house, holding a glass of wine. She looked sad, brave, but sad. "Hey guys," she said to the camera. "Just a quick update. So, there's been a little change of plans. We had to move the retreat to a backup location. My sister, well, she's going through a lot. She's not really in a place to host right now. We're sending her love and light, but we're going to pivot and make this weekend amazing anyway." She took a sip of wine. "It's just hard when family doesn't support your growth, you know? But we move. Link in bio for the new venue details." I stared at her face on the screen. She had done it. She had flipped the script. I wasn't the victim of an invasion anymore. I was the unstable sister who had flaked on a commitment. She was the hero who had saved the weekend, and she was still using me. Link in bio. I clicked the link. It went to a GoFundMe page. Help save the Seabourn retreat. Due to an unexpected venue cancellation, we are facing emergency booking costs. Help Tessa and the girls keep the healing going. She was raising money off my instability. I put the phone down on the coffee table. I looked around my dark, empty house. This wasn't a family spat. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a raid. Tessa didn't want to visit me. She wanted to consume me. She wanted to eat my house, my peace, and my reputation, and turn it all into content. I felt a cold clarity settle over me. It was heavier than the anger. It was resolve. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. I turned on the light. I looked at the list taped to the cabinet. 4. Heal. I took a pen from the drawer. I crossed out heal. Underneath it, I wrote, fight. I wasn't going to hide in the dark anymore. If Tessa wanted a show, I would give her one. But she wasn't going to like the ending. I went back to the living room and turned on the lamps. I pulled open the curtains. Let them see me. Let them see I was still here. I sat down at the window, staring out at the dark street, watching the party house glow in the distance. I waited, and then I saw it. A flashlight beam, cutting through the dunes near my property line. Someone was coming back. I picked up my phone. I didn't call Tessa. I opened the camera app. I hit record. The flashlight bobbed through the tall grass. It wasn't moving toward the front door. It was moving toward the side of the house, where the utility meters were. I stayed still. The camera on my porch would pick them up, but I wanted to see with my own eyes. The figure stopped. I couldn't see a face, just a dark shape in a hoodie. They lingered by the electrical box. My heart hammered. Were they going to cut the power? Was this how far she would go? Then, the figure moved away. They didn't touch the box. They walked around to the back deck. I moved silently through the kitchen to the back sliding door. I peered out. The figure was standing on my deck. They were placing something on the table. A bag? A box? They turned and ran, back into the dunes, disappearing toward the rental house. I waited a full minute. Then I unlocked the back door and slid it open. The ocean roared in the darkness. The air was cold. I walked to the table. There was a gift bag, a shiny silver gift bag with white tissue paper. I reached for it, hesitating. Was it a peace offering? A bomb? I pulled the tissue paper aside. Inside was a bottle of wine, cheap wine, and a card. I opened the envelope. It was Tessa's handwriting, loopy, chaotic, hurried. Stella, don't be a bitch. We need the beach access for the sunrise yoga shoot tomorrow. Unlock the gate, or I tell Mom about the settlement money you didn't declare. Love, T. I stared at the note. The settlement money. I hadn't told anyone exactly how much I had walked away with. It was the one secret I had kept. If my mother knew, she would expect me to loan it to Tessa. She would expect me to bail out the family debt, but I hadn't told Tessa. I hadn't told anyone. How did she know? I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the wind. Tessa had been in my life, in my digital footprint, deeper than I thought. She knew things she shouldn't know. She wasn't just testing the fence. She had been inside the perimeter for a long time. I looked at the wine bottle. I walked to the edge of the deck and poured it into the sand. I took the bottle and the note inside. I put the note in a Ziploc bag. Evidence. I locked the door. Unlock the gate, she had said. I went to the front of the house where the side gate led to the beach path. It was a simple wooden gate with a latch. I walked out into the dark. I took a heavy-duty padlock from my toolbox. I snapped it onto the latch. You want a war. Tessa? I whispered to the wind. I tugged on the lock. It held. I went back inside. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the chair by the window, watching the street, waiting for the sun to rise on a battlefield. Tomorrow was the sunrise yoga shoot. They were going to find the gate locked, and I was going to be ready. I woke to the sound of a digital chirp, the specific, cheerful trill of a calendar notification. It was 6 in the morning. The light in the bedroom was gray and watery, the marine layer pressing against the window like a wet sheet. I rolled over, my head throbbing from a sleepless night of vigilance, and grabbed my phone. I expected a spam email. I expected a weather alert. What I saw made the breath hitch in my throat. Event reminder. Sunrise Gratitude Circle. Location. The deck. Seabourn Cove. Time, 6:30 in the morning. Attendees, 14. I sat up, the sheets pooling around my waist. I tapped the notification. It opened a shared Google Calendar entitled Seabourn Reset Weekend. I had not created this calendar. I had not accepted an invite. But there was my email address, listed as an organizer. I scrolled through the itinerary. It was a masterpiece of delusion. 8 o'clock. Green juice goal setting, kitchen. 10 o'clock. Content creation hour. Living room/natural light. 12 o'clock. Catered lunch by Time Tide. Back patio. My house, my kitchen, my living room. Tessa had not just invited people to a party. She had scheduled a 2-day conference in my home, down to the minute, and she had added me to the invite as if my consent was a technicality she had already bypassed. I looked at the time. 6:15. According to the schedule, the gratitude circle was starting on my back deck in 15 minutes. I flew out of bed. I pulled on a pair of sweatpants and a thick sweater. I didn't brush my hair. I marched downstairs, the wood cold under my feet, and went straight to the back door. Through the glass, I saw them. They were there. Not on the deck, because I had padlocked the gate, but on the dunes directly behind my property line. A circle of yoga mats arranged in the sand. 12 women in matching beige loungewear, sitting cross-legged, facing the ocean. Tessa was in the center, leading them, her hands pressed together in a prayer pose. She was leading a gratitude circle 5 feet from the house she was trying to steal. I watched them for a moment. It was so peaceful, so aesthetically perfect. If you took a photo, it would look like paradise. But from where I stood, behind the locked glass, it looked like a siege encampment. I didn't go out there. I didn't scream. The time for screaming had passed. I turned away from the door and went to my laptop. I took a screenshot of the calendar. I printed it. Then I got dressed in real clothes. A blazer, jeans, boots, armor. I had an appointment to make. Raina Sloane's office was tucked above a bakery on the main street of Seabourn Cove. It smelled faintly of yeast and old law books. Raina was a woman in her 50s with sharp, silver-streaked hair and glasses that hung on a chain around her neck. She was the only attorney in town who handled both real estate disputes and, as Mina had told me, messy family garbage. I sat across from her. The printed calendar and the photo of the wristbands spread out on her mahogany desk. Raina looked at the papers, then at me. She took off her glasses and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "Let me get this straight," she said. Her voice was dry, like autumn leaves. "You own the property solely. Your name is on the deed. Your sister has no claim, no lease, and no key." "Correct," I said. "And yet," she continued, picking up the calendar, "she is selling tickets to a retreat at your address. I don't know if she sold tickets." I said, "She calls them deposits." Raina's eyes snapped up. "Deposits? She took money?" "Yes. She told me she took deposits from the friends to cover costs." Raina leaned back in her chair, the leather creaking. "Stella, this isn't just a trespassing issue anymore. This is fraud." I felt a cold shiver walk down my spine. Fraud? If she accepted money in exchange for accommodation and services at a venue she does not have permission to use, that is theft by deception, Raina said, and because she listed you as an organizer on this calendar, and because the event is at your house, you are dangerously close to being implicated. Implicated how? I asked. I didn't agree to any of this. It doesn't matter what you agreed to in your head, Raina said. It matters what it looks like on paper. If one of these women trips on your stairs and breaks a literal leg, you are liable. If Tessa spends those deposits and can't pay them back, and the women sue, they will sue the venue. That is you. She tapped the photo of the wristband. She has branded your property. She is operating an unlicensed business on residential zoning. The town can fine you. The guests can sue you. And your sister? She's dragging you into a financial hole that could cost you this house before you've even unpacked. I stared at the desk. I had thought this was about boundaries. I had thought it was about my inability to say no, but it wasn't. It was about survival. What do I do? I asked. Raina leaned forward. First, you cease and desist. Formally, I will draft the letter today. We serve it to her by hand. Second, you lock down everything: credit, titles, insurance. Third, and this is the hard part, you have to be ready to call the police, not threaten it. Do it. I can't arrest my sister, I whispered. Raina looked at me with a pity that felt like a slap. You aren't arresting her. Stella, you are reporting a crime in progress. She is the one committing it. You are just the witness. I left the office with a heavy folder in my bag and a heavier feeling in my chest. The morning fog had burned off, leaving the town bright and exposed. I walked to my car, but I didn't get in. I saw the white Range Rover parked down the street, near the coffee shop. Tessa was there. She was sitting at an outdoor table, wearing oversized sunglasses, typing furiously on her phone. She looked frantic. The serene yoga instructor vibe from 2 hours ago was gone. I walked over. She saw me coming. She froze, her thumbs hovering over the screen. Then she forced a smile. It was a terrible, jagged thing. Stella. Came to get coffee? I sat down opposite her. I didn't order anything. I just came from a lawyer. Tessa. The smile vanished. She put the phone down. A lawyer? Seriously? You're escalating this? You escalated this when you took money. I said. I kept my voice low. People were walking by with strollers and dogs. Raina Sloan explained the law to me. I said, you took deposits for a venue you don't have. That is fraud. If you don't refund them right now. Today, you are looking at criminal charges, and I am not going to cover for you. Tessa laughed, but it was a breathless, hollow sound. Oh, stop it. It's not fraud. It's a girls' trip. Everyone chipped in for groceries and drinks. Don't lie to me. I said, I saw the calendar. I saw the sponsor tag. I saw the GoFundMe you started last night. You are bleeding money. Tessa, and you are using my house to plug the hole. Tessa looked around, checking if anyone was listening. She leaned across the table. Her eyes were wide and rimmed with red. I don't have the money, she whispered. The admission hung between us, stark and ugly. What do you mean? I asked. I spent it, she said. Her voice cracked. I spent the deposits. I had to pay the videographer. I had to pay for the swag bags. I had to pay off the credit card bill from the last retreat or they were going to sue me. She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. Stella, please, she hissed. I am in a hole, a deep hole. If this weekend doesn't happen, if I don't get the content, I can't pitch the series. If I can't pitch the series, I can't get the sponsorship money. And if I don't get the sponsorship money, I am bankrupt. I stared at her. It was a house of cards, a Ponzi scheme built on yoga mats and sisterly guilt. So you need my house to save your skin. I said, I just need 2 nights, she pleaded. Just let us on the deck. Let us take the photos. We won't sleep there. We'll sleep at the rental. I just need the backdrop. Please, if you do this for me, I will never ask you for anything again. I looked at her. I saw the sister I had protected on the playground. I saw the teenager I had covered for when she snuck out. I saw the woman who had charmed her way through life, leaving a trail of debris that I always swept up. If I said yes, the immediate pain would stop. She would smile. She would hug me. But Raina's voice echoed in my head. Liability? Fraud? Scams? No, I said. Tessa recoiled, as if I had burned her. I can't do it. Tessa, I won't be an accessory to this. Then help me, she cried. Too loud. A woman at the next table looked over. Help me fix it. I will help you confess. I said, I will sit with you while you tell your friends the truth. We will tell them the venue fell through. We will tell them you messed up. We will figure out a payment plan for the refunds. I will help you face it. Tessa stared at me with horror. Confess? She whispered. You want me to tell them I'm broke? You want me to tell Arden and Jolene that I'm a fraud? It's the only way out. Tessa, no, she said, shaking her head violently. No, that's not an option. You want to humiliate me. You want to see me destroyed. I want you to be honest. I'm not doing it, she snapped. She grabbed her phone and her bag. I am going to make this work, with or without you. She stood up, knocking the chair back. You're a terrible sister, she said. She turned and ran toward her car. I watched her go. I felt sick, a physical nausea that roiled in my stomach. She wasn't angry. She was terrified, and a terrified narcissist is the most dangerous thing in the world. I walked back toward my house, taking the long way along the beach path to avoid walking past the rental house. The tide was coming in, the gray water churning. Stella? I turned. It was Arden Pike, the girl who had slipped up about the sponsor place yesterday. She was standing near the entrance to the dunes, holding a coffee carrier with 4 cups. She looked uncomfortable. Oh, hi, Arden, I said. Hi, she said. She shifted her weight. Look, I wanted to apologize for yesterday. Calling your house the sponsor place, it was rude, it was honest. I said. She winced. Yeah, I guess. Look, can I ask you something? Purely off the record? Sure. Did Tessa actually book this place? Like, really? No. I said. She never asked me. She just showed up. Arden let out a long sigh. She looked down at the coffee cups. I knew it. She muttered. It felt weird. The whole thing felt weird. Why are you here? Arden, I asked. Not you personally, but why is this weekend so important? Arden looked around, then stepped closer. It's the pitch, she said quietly. Tessa has a meeting next week with Bright Harbor Collective. Who? Bright Harbor. It's this business coaching group. They fund wellness startups. Tessa has been paying them for months for mentorship. They told her if she could produce a pilot retreat, like a proof of concept, they would invest $50,000. My jaw tightened. $50,000. So she brought a photographer? I asked. Yeah. And a brand contact. Jolene? The one with the red hair? She's a scout for Bright Harbor. She's here to grade the weekend. I felt the pieces click together. The desperation, the expensive rental, the schedule. Tessa wasn't just trying to look cool on Instagram. She was trying to close a business deal using my home as the asset. She told us you were a silent partner, Arden said. She said you were putting up the equity. I am not a partner. I said, I am a victim. Arden nodded slowly. I believe you, she said. Look, I already paid her $500. I know I'm not getting that back. But just watch out. She's frantic. She owes Bright Harbor a lot of money already. For the coaching fees. How much? Thousands. Arden said. She put it on credit cards. She thinks this investment will pay it all off. Thank you. Arden, I said. She nodded and walked back toward the rental house, looking like a soldier returning to a losing battle. I stood in the wind. Bright Harbor Collective. It sounded like a cult or a pyramid scheme, and my sister was in deep. I made it back to my driveway. Mina was there, leaning over the fence, waiting for me. She didn't say hello. She just pointed her trowel at me. You need to check your mail, she said. My mail? I saw the postman come by. She said. He looked confused. He was putting a red sticker on your box. I walked to the mailbox at the end of the driveway. There was a red sticker on the inside flap. Vacant/forwarding pending. I pulled out a single thin envelope. It was an official notification from the United States Postal Service. Move validation letter. We have received a request to forward your mail to P.O. Box 404, Seabourn Cove, NJ. I stared at the address. A P.O. box. Someone had filed a change of address form for my name. They were trying to divert my mail. Why? To hide bills? To intercept legal notices? To steal my identity completely? It was Tessa. It had to be. She needed to control the communication. If credit card offers came to my house in her name, or if she had used my address for the Bright Harbor contracts. I felt a surge of rage so pure it almost blinded me. This wasn't just messy. This was a felony. Mina was watching me. "Bad news?" she asked. "She tried to move my mail." I said, "She tried to steal my mail." Mina shook her head. "I went to the grocery store this morning," she said. "I heard 2 women talking in the aisle, wearing those wristbands." What were they saying? They were asking the cashier where the influencer retreat house was. They said they heard there was a launch party tonight. "Tonight?" I asked. "Word is spreading." "Stella." The cashier knew which house they meant. She pointed right here. "You're becoming a tourist attraction." I looked at my house, my sanctuary. It felt tainted. "I'm calling the police," I said. Mina nodded. "Good. But you better call your mother first." "Why?" "Because if you arrest your sister without warning the queen bee, you'll never hear the end of it." Mina was right. Mina was always right. I went inside. I sat on the floor of the kitchen. Under the list of boundaries, I dialed my mother's number. Marlene Wright answered on the second ring. Her voice was warm, distracted. The sound of a woman folding laundry in a safe. Suburban world. "Stella, I was just thinking about you. How is the beach? Is Tessa there yet?" "She's here." "Mom," I said. "Oh, good. It's so nice you two are spending time together. You know how she worries about you." "Mom," I said, cutting her off, "Tessa is trying to steal my house." There was a pause, a long, heavy pause. "Stella, don't be dramatic. Steal your house? She's visiting. She invited 12 people." "Mom, she took money from them. She forged a change of address form for my mail. She is running a business out of my living room without my permission." "Oh, Stella." Marlene sighed. "You know how Tessa is. She gets excited. She has these big ideas. She just wants to include you. She committed fraud." "Mom!" I shouted. I was shaking. Why was I the one shouting? Why was I the one who felt crazy? "Stop using that word," Marlene said sharply. "It's ugly. She's your sister. She's having a hard time. Brad left her. Stella, she's fragile. I got divorced too," I screamed. "I am having a hard time too. Why does her pain justify her abusing me?" Marlene's voice dropped to that icy, disappointed tone that had governed my childhood. "You are stronger than her. Stella, you always have been. You can handle this. Just let her have the weekend. Don't make it a big thing. Keep the peace. For me, keep the peace." The phrase hung in the air like smoke. Keep the peace. It meant swallow the hurt. It meant let Tessa win because it's quieter than fighting her. I looked at the lock on my door. I looked at the camera feed on my phone. The price of peace was my self-respect, and I was out of currency. "No. Mom," I said. "What?" "I'm not keeping the peace. I'm calling the police." "Stella, you will do no such thing," Marlene cried. "If you call the police on your sister, you are tearing this family apart. Do you hear me? You will regret it. I already regret a lot of things." "Mom," I said, "but I'm not going to regret this." I hung up. I sat there in the silence. The cord was cut. I felt untethered, floating in a dark, cold space. But it was my space. I stood up. I needed a plan. Tessa wasn't going to stop. She had the Bright Harbor Scout watching her. She had the debt looming over her. She was cornered, and she was going to attack. She had threatened to tell Mom about the settlement money. That leverage was gone now. I had already nuked the relationship with Mom. She had threatened to make a scene. Fine, let her make a scene. I went to my office. I took a fresh notebook. I started a log. Date/time, Saturday, 1 p.m. Incident. Attempted mail forwarding. Evidence, USPS letter. Date/time, Saturday, 1:30 p.m. Incident. Witness statement. Arden Pike. Evidence. Verbal confession. Deposits and pitch deck. I wrote it all down. Every text, every conversation, every unauthorized Instagram post. I went to the window. The sun was going down. The launch party rumor was out there. If they came tonight, I wouldn't hide in the dark. I turned on every light in the house. I turned on the porch lights. I turned on the floodlights I had installed with the cameras. The house glowed like a lighthouse. I unlocked the front door, not to let them in, but to step out. I sat on the front porch swing, my phone in my hand, the lawyer's cease and desist letter in my lap. I waited for the invasion. It wasn't long before I saw them, not the cars this time. People, walking down the street, strangers, a couple holding hands, a group of teenagers. They were walking slowly, looking at their phones, then looking at my house. "Is that it?" I heard one of them say. "The Seaborn house?" "Yeah, look at the lights. It looks open." They were coming. The tourists, the curious, the people Tessa had summoned with her hashtags and her lies. I stood up. I walked to the edge of the porch steps. "I am Stella Wright." I said to the darkness, "And this is my home." A car turned onto the street. It was the white Range Rover. Tessa was back, and she wasn't alone. She had the whole group with her, and they were dressed for a party. I gripped the railing. The peace was over. The war was here. I returned from town at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I had driven to the hardware store for no other reason than to get away from the windows, to breathe air that didn't feel recycled through my own anxiety. I had bought a pack of batteries and a new flashlight. Trivial armor for a war I didn't want to fight. When I turned onto my street, I slammed on the brakes. The property line wasn't just crossed. It was erased. Yesterday had been an invasion of bodies. Today was an invasion of infrastructure. They had set up an archway, a literal wooden archway, draped in beige linen and dried pampas grass, stood right at the edge of my driveway where the crushed shells met the asphalt. A portable generator hummed in the grass, my grass, powering 3 massive ring lights that stood like sentinels facing the ocean. And the women, they were no longer in their mismatched bikinis and cover-ups. They were uniformed. Every single one of them was wearing a matching sage green oversized sweatshirt with the words "Seaborn Reset" puff-printed in white across the chest. They looked like a cult, a beautiful, beige, terrifying cult. Tessa was in the center of it all, directing a photographer, a man I hadn't seen before, with a camera lens the size of a telescope. She was shouting directions, waving her arms, adjusting the archway. She looked manic. Her movements were too fast, her laughter too loud, cutting through the heavy salt air like a jagged knife. I didn't pull into the driveway. I parked on the street, blocking the view of the archway from the road. I took a deep breath. I picked up my phone. I opened the camera app and switched to video. I stepped out of the car. The sound of the ocean was drowned out by the thumping bass of the portable speaker and Tessa's voice. "Chin up. Arden, love the light? Let's get the product placement in the shot. Hold the bottle higher." I walked toward them. I didn't run. I walked with the heavy, plodding cadence of someone who is done negotiating. Tessa saw me first. Her face did a complicated spasm. Fear, then annoyance, then a desperate, bright plastering of joy. "Stella!" she shrieked. "You're back. Look, we made it beautiful for you." She gestured to the archway, as if she expected me to fall to my knees in gratitude. I didn't stop walking until I was 10 feet away. I held the phone up, the red recording dot pulsing on the screen. I didn't scream. I didn't ask a question. I didn't leave any room for the sisterly misunderstanding script she relied on. "You do not have permission to be on my property," I said. My voice was flat. It sounded foreign to my own ears. It was the voice of a landlord, a judge, a stranger. The photographer lowered his camera. The music seemed to stutter. Tessa laughed, but it sounded like glass breaking. "Oh, stop filming, you weirdo. We're just getting the hero shots. It's for the brand. You're going to love the aesthetic. You do not have permission to be on my property," I repeated. My cadence didn't change. I moved the phone in a slow arc, capturing the faces of the women, the generator, the archway, the trampled ornamental grasses. One of the women stepped forward. It was the redhead I had seen on the deck the night before. She wasn't wearing the matching sweatshirt. She was wearing a sharp black blazer over her swimsuit, holding a clipboard. She looked older than the others, sharper. This was Jolene Marr, the scout. She looked at me, then at Tessa, then back at me. She frowned. Wait, she said. Her voice was cool and professional. Tessa jumped in immediately, physically stepping between me and Jolene. It's fine. Jolene. My sister is just, she's very privacy-focused. It's a bit of a game we play. Stella, put the phone down. You're scaring the vibe. Jolene didn't look at Tessa. She looked at me. You're the homeowner? Jolene asked. Yes, I said. I am Stella Wright. I am the sole owner of this property. I did not agree to this event. I did not agree to be a sponsor. I have asked this group to leave 3 times. This is criminal trespass. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the generator seemed to quiet down. Jolene turned to Tessa. Her expression wasn't angry. It was something worse. It was disappointed. Tessa, she said, you told me the contract was signed. You told me your sister was the silent equity partner. She is, Tessa stammered, sweat breaking out on her upper lip. She's having a bad week. The divorce. Stop talking about my divorce, I said. The women in the sage green sweatshirts were exchanging looks. The fun girls trip veneer was evaporating, revealing the ugly transactional skeleton underneath. Tessa looked at the group, seeing her audience turning against her. She grabbed my arm, hard, her nails digging into the flesh, and yanked me toward the side of the house, away from the microphones and the judging eyes. Let go of me, I said. She didn't let go. She dragged me to the shadow of the chimney and spun me around. Her face was inches from mine. The mask was gone. There was no fun sister left. There was only a feral, terrified animal. You have to stop, she hissed. You have to stop right now. Get off my property. Tessa. I can't, she screamed, her voice cracking. I can't leave. Do you know who that is? That's Jolene Marr. She's from Bright Harbor. I know who she is. I said, Arden told me. She's the one holding the checkbook you're trying to scam? I'm not scamming, Tessa cried. Tears were streaming down her face now, cutting tracks through her heavy makeup. I just need the footage. If I don't send the pitch deck by Monday, I default. Default on what? On the coaching program. On the mastermind. She was shaking. I signed a contract. Stella, with Bright Harbor. It's a $20,000 program. I put it on a payment plan. But the fine print, if I don't launch a successful retreat within 6 months, the full balance is due immediately, plus interest. $20,000? I stared at her. For what? For someone to tell you how to post on Instagram? They're business coaches, she sobbed. They promised they'd invest if I proved the concept. I spent everything. Stella, I spent the rent money. I maxed out the cards to pay the deposit. If Jolene walks away, they call the debt. They'll sue me. I'll lose the car. I'll lose everything. She gripped my shoulders. Her hands were wet. Please, I am begging you. Just let me finish the shoot. Just 2 hours. I'll pack it all up. I'll never talk to you again. Just don't let me drown. I looked at her. My heart did the thing it always did. It twisted. I felt the physical ache of her fear. I remembered her at 6 years old, crying because she broke my favorite doll. Terrified mom would yell. I had hidden the pieces. I had taken the blame. She's drowning. I thought, she's my sister. It would be so easy. Just nod. Just walk away. Let her have the 2 hours. Let her fake the photos. Let her trick Jolene. But then I looked past her shoulder. I saw the archway. I saw the wristbands on the women's arms. I saw the trampled grass. I saw the lie she was asking me to participate in. If I said yes, I wasn't helping her. I was conspiring with her. I was helping her defraud a company, even a predatory one. And I was helping her lie to these 12 women who had paid deposits she couldn't refund. Sympathy is not consent. The clarity hit me like cold water. I wasn't saving her from drowning. I was just letting her pull me under too. No, I said. Tessa froze. What? No, I said again. I am not doing this. You signed a bad contract. Tessa, you spent money you didn't have. That is a tragedy. But it is not my tragedy. You're going to let them ruin me? She whispered. You ruined yourself, I said, and you tried to use my house as the collateral. I pulled away from her grip. I'm calling the police, I said. You have 5 minutes to get that archway off my driveway. Tessa stared at me. Her eyes went dead. The panic didn't vanish, but it shifted into something cold and sharp. You're a bitch, she said. A jealous, lonely, barren bitch. I didn't flinch. I turned and walked toward the front door. I went inside and locked it behind me. I picked up the phone. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady when I dialed Raina Sloane's number. She answered on the first ring. Did you do it? She asked. I told them to leave. I said, they're still there. Tessa is refusing. She says she owes $20,000 to a group called Bright Harbor, and she needs the footage. Raina let out a sharp breath. Bright Harbor, she muttered. I've heard of them. Predatory lending wrapped in wellness babble. Stella, listen to me. You need to call the sheriff. Now. I know. I said, not the non-emergency line. Raina said, 911. You have a hostile group trespassing and refusing to leave. You tell them you feel unsafe because you are unsafe. I hung up. I stared at the keypad. 911. It felt like a betrayal of blood. It felt like I was breaking the cardinal rule of the Wright family. Keep it inside. I looked at the monitor. Tessa was back with the group. She was crying now, loudly, gesturing at the house. Jolene looked uncomfortable. The other women looked angry. They weren't leaving. They were digging in. I pressed the call button. The police arrived in 12 minutes. I watched from the window as the cruiser turned onto the street. It was a black SUV with bold white lettering, Seabourn Police. It pulled up right behind the white Range Rover, blocking it in. The music cut off instantly. The photographer lowered his camera. The women in the sage green sweatshirts froze, looking like deer caught in headlights. 2 officers stepped out. One was older, heavy-set, with a face that looked like it had seen too many summers. The other was younger, sharp-eyed. Tessa moved before they even closed their doors. She ran toward them, not away from them, toward them. She was weeping. It was a performance worthy of an Oscar. She clasped her hands to her chest, her shoulders shaking. "Officer! Officer! Thank God you're here!" she wailed. I couldn't hear what she was saying through the glass, but I saw the body language. She pointed at my house. She tapped her temple, the universal sign for crazy. She grabbed the older officer's arm, pleading. The officer looked up at my house. He didn't look friendly. He looked concerned. Then he walked up the driveway. Tessa walked right beside him, talking rapidly, wiping away tears. I opened the front door before he could knock. I stepped out onto the porch. "Ma'am?" the officer said. He kept his hand near his belt, not on his gun, but near it. "Are you Stella Wright?" "Yes," I said. "I'm the one who called." He frowned. He looked at Tessa, then back at me. "Your sister here tells me there's a bit of a medical situation," he said. "She says you're having an episode? That you've locked yourself in and are making threats?" I looked at Tessa. She was standing behind the officer, her face a mask of tragic concern. She's not herself. "Officer." Tessa sniffled. "She's been spiraling since the divorce. We just came to check on her, to bring her some groceries, and she started screaming about conspiracies and spies. I think she's off her meds." My stomach dropped. It was so believable. The solitary woman in the beach house, the concerned family, the sheer number of people supporting her. I felt the urge to scream. She's lying. But I knew screaming was exactly what a crazy person would do. I took a slow breath. I kept my hands visible. I didn't look at Tessa. I looked the officer in the eye. "Officer," I said, my voice low and calm. "My sister is lying to you to cover a criminal trespass. I am not having an episode. I am having a home invasion." The officer blinked. He looked unsure. "She's got people camping in my yard." I continued. "She has erected a structure on my driveway without a permit. She is running a commercial event on residential property, and she has defrauded these women." I held up the folder I had prepared. "I have documentation." I said, "Would you like to see it?" The officer hesitated. Then he walked up the steps. "Let's take a look," he said. I opened the folder on the porch railing. "Here is the deed to the house," I said, "sole owner. Here is the text message from 3 days ago where I explicitly told her not to come." I flipped the page. "Here is the wristband that was mailed to my house, proving she sold tickets. Here is the itinerary she posted online listing herself as the organizer." I flipped to the last page, the USPS letter, and here is the change of address form she attempted to file to divert my mail to a P.O. box. The officer stared at the letter. He touched the red sticker. "She tried to move your mail?" he asked. "Yes," I said, "because she is trying to hide financial documents." The officer turned around. He looked at Tessa. The concern on his face had evaporated. It was replaced by the hard, flat look of law enforcement realizing they were being played. "Ms. Hale?" he called out. Tessa took a step back. "She's forging that!" she cried. "She printed that stuff. She's obsessive." The officer walked down the steps. He didn't walk toward Tessa. He walked toward the group of women. "Who paid a deposit for this event?" he asked loudly. The group went silent. Then, slowly, hands started to go up. "I did," said the woman with the yoga mats. $500? "Me too," said another. "And what were you told this money was for?" the officer asked. "Venue fees," Jolene Marr said. She stepped forward, her clipboard in hand. She looked furious. "We were told the venue was secured and the homeowner was a partner." The officer turned to Tessa. "Ma'am, looks like we have a problem here. You're operating a business without a license. You're trespassing after being trespassed, and it sounds like we might have some theft by deception going on." Tessa's face crumbled. The tragedy act fell apart, revealing the ugly panic underneath. "I didn't steal anything. I was going to pay them back. It's a retreat. It's for healing. I want my money back." "Tessa," Arden Pike said. Her voice was shaking, but it was loud. "Right now." "I can't," Tessa screamed. "I don't have it." The crowd erupted. The silence broke into a dozen angry voices. "You spent it? You told us this was sponsored. I took off work for this." The officer raised his hand. "All right, that's enough. Everyone quiet down." He turned to Tessa. "You need to pack this up. Now, all of it. The arch, the lights, the cars. You have 20 minutes to vacate this property, or I am arresting you for criminal trespass, and I suggest you figure out how to refund these ladies, or I'll be taking reports for fraud as well." Tessa looked at the officer. Then she looked at the group of women who were glaring at her. Then she looked at me. She didn't look sad. She didn't look sorry. She looked at me with a hatred so pure, so distilled, that I felt it like a physical cold front. Her eyes narrowed, her jaw set. This wasn't a sister who had made a mistake. This was an enemy who had been exposed. "Fine," she spat. She turned to the group. "Grab your stuff. We're going to the rental." She didn't apologize to them. She marched to the archway and kicked the generator. I stood on the porch and watched. It took them 30 minutes to dismantle the camp. The police officer stayed the whole time. Leaning against his cruiser, arms crossed, Jolene Marr walked up to the porch steps while the others were loading the cars. "I'm sorry," she said. She didn't look at me. She looked at the ground. "I didn't know." "I know." I said, "She's not getting the funding." Jolene said, "Bright Harbor doesn't work with liabilities." She walked away. Tessa was the last to leave. She sat in the driver's seat of the Range Rover. The window rolled down. She looked up at me. "You think you won," she called out. I didn't answer. "You didn't win," she said. "You just made it expensive, and I always get what I'm owed." She rolled up the window and peeled out, tires screeching on the asphalt. The officer tipped his hat to me and got back in his cruiser. I was alone. The driveway was empty. The archway was gone. The grass was flattened and dying where the generator had been. I went inside and locked the door. I sank down onto the floor of the hallway. I thought I would cry. I thought I would feel relief. But I didn't. I felt a buzzing in my ears, a primal warning. I always get what I'm owed. Tessa wasn't gone. She had just retreated to the rental house down the street. She was cornered, humiliated, and broke. And she blamed me for all of it. I spent the rest of the evening patrolling my own house. I checked the windows. I checked the locks. Night fell heavy and dark. The moon was obscured by clouds. At 11 o'clock, I picked up my phone to check the camera feeds before bed. I opened the app. Camera 1, driveway, online, camera 2, back deck, online, camera 3, side gate, connection error. I tapped the screen. Retry, camera 3, connection error. I frowned. The side gate camera was new. The batteries were fresh. I switched to camera 2, the one on the back deck. It had a wide view that included the edge of the side yard. I zoomed in. The image was grainy in the night vision mode, but I could see the side gate. There was something on the camera lens, not a glitch, a physical obstruction. It looked like duct tape. Someone had walked along the blind spot of the neighbor's fence, reached up, and taped over the lens. I felt the blood drain from my extremities. This wasn't just social pressure anymore. This wasn't just a girl's trip gone wrong. Tessa had come back in the dark. She had blinded the camera. Why would she blind the camera unless she was planning to do something she didn't want recorded? I turned off the lights in the house. I sat in the dark kitchen, clutching the heavy flashlight I had bought that afternoon. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the screens. I wasn't dealing with a sister anymore. I was dealing with a saboteur, and she was right down the street. I waited in the dark, listening for the sound of breaking glass. I woke up to silence. It was a heavy, pressurized silence, the kind that hangs in the air after a storm has passed, but before the damage has been assessed. The sun was struggling through the marine layer, casting a pale, sickly light across the floorboards. I reached for my phone on the nightstand. My thumb hovered over the camera app, dreading what I might see. I had taped over the sensor light of the back deck camera before bed. A clumsy attempt to stop the tampering, but the fear of someone in my yard had kept me in a half-doze all night. I didn't open the camera app. I saw an email notification first. It was from a Google alert I had set up years ago for my own name. Usually, it was just old copywriter credits or LinkedIn updates. This one was different. New result for Stella Wright plus Seabourn Cove. I clicked the link. It took me to a website I had never heard of, a third-tier vacation rental platform called Coast Stay. The headline hit me like a physical slap. Seabourn Cove Bungalow. The Ultimate Healing Reset. Available starting Monday. Host, T. Hale. I stared at the screen. My breath caught in my throat. There was my living room. The photo was bright, airy, professionally lit. It was one of the staging photos from when I bought the house. I scrolled down. There was my kitchen, my bedroom, the view from my deck. The description was a word salad of wellness buzzwords. Unplug in this curated sanctuary. Experience the ocean breeze and the silence of a true disconnect. Perfect for girls' trips, retreats, and heavy healing. Heavy healing. It sounded like a threat. I looked at the availability calendar. Next week was wide open. The week after was booked. I looked at the price. $600 a night. I felt a wave of nausea so violent I had to sit on the edge of the bed. Tessa hadn't just invaded my home, she had franchised it. She had been kicked off the property by the police less than 24 hours ago. And in the dark of the night, fueled by rage and desperation, she had put my home on the auction block. I grabbed my laptop and ran downstairs. I didn't bother with coffee. I needed a witness. I texted Mina, "Come over, now." She arrived in 4 minutes, wearing a floral bathrobe and combat boots, holding a mug of tea. She took one look at my face and set the mug down on the counter. "What happened?" she asked. I turned the laptop toward her. She squinted at the screen. She read the headline. She read the host name. T. Hale. "She put it up for rent?" Mina asked, her voice low and dangerous. "She put it up for rent starting Monday." I said, "She's selling dates she doesn't have. She's selling a house she doesn't own." Mina clicked on the Contact Host button. It opened a generic email form. "Look at the email address," Mina said, pointing a calloused finger at the bottom of the page. "Reset your life. 2026 protonmail.com. It's encrypted. I said, "It's a burner." Mina scoffed. "It's not a burner. It's a panicked amateur trying to hide." I called Raina Sloan. It was Saturday. But she picked up on the first ring. I told her everything. The listing, the photos, the bookings. Raina was silent for a moment. The only sound, the scratching of a pen on paper. "This is escalation. Stella," she said, "this isn't just stubbornness. This is identity theft and wire fraud. She is entering into contracts using your property as the asset. Can we take it down?" I asked. "We can file a DMCA takedown request," Raina said. "I can send a cease and desist to the platform. But these smaller sites? They are slow. They operate with skeleton crews. It could take 3 days. It could take a week. I don't have a week." I said, "People are booking for Monday." There was a pause. "Stella?" Raina said. "Are you sure it's her?" I blinked. "Who else would it be?" "It's a generic email." Raina said, "The photos are public record from the sale. Anyone could have scraped them. It could be a scammer in another country who just saw the buzz about the Seabourn house on Instagram and decided to capitalize." I looked at the listing again. I read the description. Features a vintage clawfoot tub and a secret garden path to the dunes. I froze. "What is it?" Mina asked, watching my face. "The secret garden path." I whispered. There was no secret garden path. There was a deer trail that cut through the brambles on the north side of the house. It wasn't on the survey. It wasn't on the deed. You couldn't see it from the street. The only people who knew about it were me, the previous owner, and Tessa. I had shown it to her on FaceTime 3 weeks ago, right after I closed. I had walked out to the edge of the yard and pointed the camera at the little gap in the bushes. "Look," I had said, "it's like a secret door." She remembered. "It's her." I said to Raina, "She put details in the listing that aren't public. She knows about the deer trail." "Call her," Raina said. "Record it. Get her to say it." I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking. I placed the phone on the kitchen island and put it on speaker. I opened the voice memo app on my iPad and hit record. I dialed Tessa. She answered on the 4th ring. Her voice was thick, groggy, and laced with a defensive edge. "What do you want?" "Stella?" "I'm sleeping." "You're not sleeping." I said, "You're working. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm looking at the listing." "Tessa. Seabourn Cove Bungalow. On Coast Day. You listed my house for rent starting Monday." There was a silence. A long, heavy silence. I could hear her breathing. I could hear the rustle of sheets. "You're paranoid," she said finally. "I didn't list your house. I'm at the rental. I'm packing. I'm leaving. Don't lie to me." I said, "It says host. T. Hale. It uses the photos Vaughn gave you." Tessa laughed. A sharp, brittle sound. "T. Hale? That could be anyone. Tara Hale, Tammy Hale. It's a common name. And those photos are online. Stella. Anyone could have grabbed them. You have fans now, remember? Maybe one of them is running a scam." I felt a cold fury rising in my chest. She was gaslighting me. She was looking me in the eye, virtually, and telling me the sky was green. "It mentions the secret garden path." I said. The line went dead silent. "What?" she whispered. "The listing." I said, "It mentions the secret garden path to the dunes. The one I showed you on FaceTime. The one that isn't on the maps. The one that isn't in the real estate listing. Only you know about that path." "Tessa." I heard a sharp intake of breath. She had slipped. She hadn't realized she had used a piece of intimate knowledge to sell a public lie. Maybe the realtor put it in the old description." She stammered. "He didn't." I said, "I memorized that description. It wasn't there." "Stella. Listen. You did it." I said, "You're trying to rent out my house while I'm living in it." "I had to," she screamed. The facade cracked wide open. The grogginess vanished, replaced by high-pitched hysteria. "I have to show revenue. Bright Harbor needs to see projected income or they won't stop the collection process. I just needed a booking confirmation. I was going to cancel it before they showed up. You were going to fake a booking? I was going to leverage it. It's just numbers on a screen." "Stella, why do you care? No one was actually going to come inside. "You are sick," I said. "I'm desperate," she shrieked. "You have a house. You have a settlement. You have safety. I have nothing. I am trying to build a raft out of garbage so I don't drown. And you keep poking holes in it." I hung up. I stood there, staring at the phone. Mina let out a low whistle. She admitted it. Mina said, "She admitted it." I repeated. I looked at the iPad. The recording was saved. I looked at the kitchen cabinet, the list of boundaries, no family drama. This wasn't drama. This was war. And I had been fighting it with one hand tied behind my back, trying to protect her reputation, trying to keep the family's shame quiet. I walked to the window. I looked down the street at the rental house. The white Range Rover was still there. I am done hiding. I said, I opened my phone. I opened Instagram. I opened Facebook. I didn't have a huge following, mostly college friends, old coworkers, cousins, aunts, the people who made up the fabric of my life, the people Tessa cared about impressing. I typed out a text post, no background, no filters, just stark black text on white. To my friends and family, it has come to my attention that my home in Seabourn Cove has been fraudulently listed for rent on third-party websites under the name Seabourn Cove Bungalow or Seabourn Reset. Please be aware, my home is not for rent. I am not hosting retreats. I am not partnering with any wellness brands. Any listings you see are unauthorized scams. The police and legal counsel have been notified. If you have booked a stay, please contact your bank immediately for a fraud refund. Stella. I hovered over the post button. If I pressed it, I was nuking the peace. I was embarrassing my mother. I was exposing Tessa as a fraud to everyone she knew. I remembered the wristbands. I remembered the camera taped over. I remembered the look on her face when she said, "I always get what I'm owed." I pressed post. Then I turned off notifications. The silence lasted for exactly 45 minutes. Then the phone started to ring. It wasn't Tessa. It was my cousin, Beth, then my old college roommate, Sarah, then an aunt in Florida. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. I sat on the deck with Mina, drinking coffee that had gone cold. "You know what you just did?" Mina asked. I told the truth. I said, "You lit a signal flare," she said. "And you just blinded the pilot." Then the texts started coming through. OMG. "Stella, is this about Tessa? I saw Tessa's post about the retreat. Is she scamming people? Stella, are you okay?" Then, a notification I couldn't ignore, a tag. My cousin Beth had commented on Tessa's latest photo, a selfie of Tessa on the beach with the caption, "Manifesting Abundance." Beth's comment, "Tessa, why is Stella posting that the retreat is a scam? Did you list her house without asking?" I watched the comment sit there for 10 seconds. Then it disappeared, deleted, but another one popped up, then another. The circle was closing. My phone rang again. "Mom." I stared at the screen. The picture of my mother, smiling at a garden party, looked like a relic from a different life. I answered, "Stella." Marlene Wright's voice was shaking, not with fear, with fury. "Mom," I said. "Take it down," she said. "Take what down?" "The post, the status, whatever you call it. Take it down immediately." "No," I said. "Stella, do you have any idea what you're doing? Aunt Linda just called me. She asked if Tessa is going to jail. You are humiliating us. You are airing our business to the world. Tessa aired our business when she sold tickets to my house." "Mom, she made a mistake," Marlene cried. "She's ambitious. She got carried away. You handle that privately. You don't blast it on the internet like a teenager. She listed my house for rent." "Mom!" I shouted. I was standing in the kitchen now, gripping the edge of the counter. "She forged a rental listing. She tried to intercept my mail. That isn't ambition. That is a crime. She is your sister," Marlene screamed. The sound was shocking. My mother never screamed. She whispered. She manipulated. She sighed. But she never screamed. "You are ruining her reputation." "Stella, she is trying to build a brand. If people think she's a scammer, she loses everything. She is a scammer. Mom!" Silence. A terrible, ringing silence. "You are cruel," Marlene whispered. "You have always been the cruel one. You judge her because she has spirit. You judge her because she takes risks. You just want to see her fail so you can feel superior in your safe, little life." I felt the words hit me like buckshot. Cruel. Superior. I closed my eyes. I saw the timeline of my life. Every time Tessa broke something, I was told to glue it back together. Every time Tessa stole something, I was told to lend it to her. Every time Tessa lied, I was told to nod. "You taught her this," I said. My voice was quiet now. "What?" "You taught her she can do anything," I said. "As long as I clean it up. You taught her that my boundaries are suggestions and her feelings are laws. You created this." "Mom, don't you dare blame me." Marlene spat. "I'm not blaming you." I said, "I'm just stopping the payment." I hung up. I blocked my mother's number. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. It felt like cutting off a limb, but the limb was gangrenous. I spent the afternoon with Raina Sloan. We sat in her office, drafting the formal takedown request to CoStay and 2 other aggregator sites Raina had found. It was a slow, grinding process. We had to scan my deed. We had to scan my driver's license. We had to write a sworn affidavit stating I was the owner and the listing was fraudulent. "This is how they win," Raina said, rubbing her temples. "Who?" "The scammers. The narcissists. They create chaos in seconds. It takes us hours, days, weeks to clean it up. They rely on your exhaustion. They rely on you just giving up and saying, 'Fine, you keep the money. Just leave me alone.' I'm not giving up." I said. Raina looked at the screen. She frowned. "That's odd." She said, "What?" "I'm looking at the payment structure on the listing. Usually, these sites obscure the bank details until a booking is confirmed. But because this is a partner listing, which means they paid for a premium boost, the routing info is partially visible in the source code for the verification badge." She tapped the keyboard, expanding a window of code that looked like gibberish to me. "Here," she pointed. "The payout destination. It's not a personal checking account. It's a corporate LLC. Is it Tessa's LLC?" I asked. "Hailstorm Media or whatever she calls it?" "No," Raina said. "I ran the EIN number. It's registered to Bright Harbor Collective Holdings." I leaned in. "Bright Harbor?" "The business coaching group." I said, "Why would the rental income go to them?" Raina asked. I thought about what Tessa had said on the phone. Bright Harbor needs to see projected income or they won't stop the collection process. "She didn't just list it to show them," I said, realizing the horror of it. "She listed it through them. They are taking the money directly." Raina sat back. "That changes things," she said. "That means Tessa isn't just a rogue operator. She's a mule. She's funneling money to a predatory organization to pay off a debt she likely incurred buying their services. It's a pyramid scheme." I said, "It's worse," Raina said. "It's indentured servitude. They get her to sign a contract for coaching. She can't pay, so they force her to liquidate her assets. And since she has no assets, she liquidates mine." I finished. Raina nodded. "We need to confirm this." She said, "We need a witness who knows the structure of the deal. I know who to ask." I said, "I met Arden Pike at the pier. She was sitting on a bench, staring at the ocean, a suitcase next to her. She looked smaller than she had yesterday. The swagger was gone. I didn't want to scare her off. I bought 2 coffees from the kiosk and sat down next to her. I handed her a cup. She took it. "Thanks. You leaving?" I asked. "Yeah. Uber is coming in 10. I can't stay in that house with her. She's losing it, Stella. She's screaming at her phone. She's throwing things. I need to ask you something." "Arden, about Bright Harbor." Arden flinched. She looked at her coffee. "I don't know much." She said, "You know enough." I said, "You knew Jolene was a scout. You knew about the pitch deck." Arden sighed. She pulled her coat tighter. "It's not just a coaching group," she said quietly. "It's a system. They target women who are desperate, divorcees, failed influencers, people like Tessa. They sell them this 6-figure retreat blueprint. It costs 20 grand. And if you can't pay, they offer you financing. Arden said, but the terms are insane, and they assign you a mentor. Tessa's mentor is a guy named Lyle Brandt. Lyle Brandt, I repeated, memorizing the name. He calls her 3 times a day. Arden said, I heard him on speaker. He's scary, calm, but scary. What does he tell her? He tells her that reality is negotiable. He tells her, if you control the narrative, the money follows. I felt a chill. Control the narrative. That was why Tessa was so obsessed with the image, with the story. She wasn't just lying. She was following a script written by a sociopath. Did Lyle tell her to list my house? I asked. Arden nodded. I heard him yesterday. She said, after the police left, Tessa was crying, saying it was over. Lyle told her, it's not over until you stop selling, list the asset, secure the bookings. We can sort out the venue later. Just get the cash in the pipeline. List the asset, I whispered. He didn't care that she didn't own it. Arden said, he just wanted the deposit money to hit their account. Arden looked at me. Her eyes were full of shame. I'm sorry, she said. I should have told you sooner. We all wanted to believe her. We all wanted the magic weekend. But it's just a meat grinder. The Uber pulled up. Arden stood up. She's not going to stop. Stella, Arden said, Lyle won't let her. He has her convinced that if she stops, she dies. Arden got in the car. I watched it drive away. I sat on the pier for a long time. The sun began to set, painting the sky in violent shades of red and orange. I wasn't just fighting my sister. I was fighting a machine that ate women like Tessa and spat out fraud. But Tessa was the one holding the match. Tessa was the one who had chosen to burn me to keep herself warm. I walked back to the house. I didn't go inside. I went to the back deck. I looked at the camera with the duct tape over it. I reached up and peeled the tape off. I threw it in the trash. I went inside and sat at my desk. I opened a new document. Notice of fraud and intent to prosecute. I wasn't writing a letter to Tessa. I was writing a statement for the police, for the lawyers, and for Bright Harbor Collective. I attached the screenshots of the listing. I attached the code showing the Bright Harbor bank transfer. I attached the recording of Tessa admitting she listed the house. I printed it all out. I put it in a manila envelope. Then I picked up my phone. I unblocked my mother. I didn't call her. I sent her one text. I am meeting Tessa tomorrow. If you want to help her, tell her to bring the truth, because I am bringing the evidence. I didn't wait for a reply. I went to the closet and pulled out a blazer. I laid it on the chair for tomorrow. I wasn't a sister anymore. I wasn't a victim. I was the owner of the house, and I was about to serve the eviction notice. The pier at Seabourn Cove was a stretch of weathered gray timber jutting out into the Atlantic, smelling permanently of salt spray and frying dough. I chose the cafe at the very end because it was public. There were tourists eating clam strips, fishermen packing up their gear, and couples walking hand in hand. It was a place where scenes were difficult to make, where the social contract of polite behavior was enforced by the sheer number of witnesses. I arrived 20 minutes early. I sat at a metal table bolted to the deck, my back to the ocean, watching the entrance. I wanted to see her coming. I wanted to see which version of my sister was walking toward me before she saw me. The sun was beginning to dip, bleeding orange into the horizon. I ordered a black coffee. I didn't drink it. I just held the cup, warming my hands against the bite of the evening wind. At 6 o'clock exactly, I saw her. She wasn't wearing the flowing caftan or the oversized sunglasses. She was wearing jeans and a gray sweater. Her hair was pulled back in a severe bun. She wasn't walking with that performative, hip-swaying strut she used for her Instagram stories. She was walking quickly, head down, shoulders hunched. She looked smaller. She looked like the ghost of the sister I used to know. She saw me and hesitated. For a split second, I saw pure fear in her eyes. Then, the muscle memory kicked in. She straightened her spine. She adjusted her bag. She forced a smile onto her face, not the dazzling smile, but a soft, weary, we're in this together smile. She walked up to the table. Hey, she said. Her voice was quiet. Sit down. Tessa. She pulled out the metal chair. It scraped loudly against the wood. She winced. "I'm glad you texted," she said, clasping her hands on the table. "I really wanted to talk. Things got crazy yesterday. I think we both said things we didn't mean." "I didn't say anything I didn't mean. I said," Tessa sighed. She looked at the menu, then pushed it away. "I know you're mad," she said. "I get it. I overstepped. But Stella, you have to understand the pressure I'm under. Lyle, my coach, he pushes us really hard. It's like a boot camp. You get into this mindset where you just have to make it happen, you know?" She looked up at me, eyes wide and imploring. "I just wanted to make you proud," she said. "I wanted to show you I could build something real." I stared at her. It was a masterclass. The deflection, the reframing. "I did this for you." I reached into my bag and pulled out the manila envelope. I placed it on the table between us. It sat there like a brick. "I'm not here to talk about your mindset, Tessa," I said. "I am here to talk about the facts." I opened the envelope. I pulled out the papers one by one, laying them out in a grid on the sticky table. "Fact 1, I said, pointing to the copy of the bank transfer receipt from the women. "You accepted $3,000 in deposits for a venue you did not secure. You spent that money. That is theft." Tessa opened her mouth. "Fact 2, I interrupted. I pointed to the USPS letter. "You attempted to file a fraudulent change of address form for my home to divert my mail to a P.O. box. That is federal mail fraud." I pointed to the screenshot of the Coast Stay listing. "Fact 3, you listed my property for rent on a public platform using photos you obtained under false pretenses from my realtor. "You accepted bookings for dates when you have no access to the property. That is wire fraud." I pulled out the last document, the code snippet showing the payment routing. And fact 4, you set up that listing so the money went directly to Bright Harbor Collective Holdings. You weren't just building a business. Tessa, you were laundering money for a predatory lender using my deed as the collateral. Tessa stared at the papers. Her face was pale, drained of blood. She didn't look at me. She looked at the evidence of her own destruction. "You tracked the routing number?" she whispered. "My lawyer did." I said. Tessa looked up. Her eyes were wet. "You got a lawyer? Against me?" "I got a lawyer to protect myself from you," I said. "Stella, please," she said, her voice trembling. "You don't understand. They have my social security number. They have a confession of debt I signed. If I don't pay them, they're going to garnish everything. I was just trying to buy time." I looked at her. I felt the familiar tug of empathy, the old instinct to jump in the water and save her. She's drowning. Help her. But then I looked at the mail fraud letter. That wasn't drowning. That was holding my head under the water so she could breathe. I took a deep breath. The ocean air filled my lungs. "I am done being your solution." "Tessa," I said. The words hung in the air. They were heavy and final. Tessa blinked. "What?" "I am done." I said, "I am done being the safety net. I am done being the one who cleans up the mess. I am done financing your delusions." "Delusions?" she spat. The sadness vanished, replaced by a flash of anger. "You think my dreams are delusions? I think you are 35 years old and you just committed 4 felonies to impress a man named Lyle who sees you as a revenue stream." I said. Tessa slammed her hand on the table. A couple at the next table looked over. "I am trying to be someone," she hissed. Her voice was raw, scraping against her throat. "Do you know what it's like? To be the pretty one who didn't marry rich? To be the fun one who ended up alone in a studio apartment?" She leaned across the table. Her eyes were wild. "I am terrified. Stella. I am terrified of being ordinary. I am terrified of being just another woman in her 30s who works in retail and waits for the weekend. I can't do it. I can't go back to that. I need to be more." It was the most honest thing she had ever said to me. It was a confession of a deep, rot-filled hollowness. She was empty, and she was trying to fill that emptiness with likes, with views, with other people's envy. I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I felt a profound, aching pity. Being ordinary isn't a failure. Tessa, I said softly, it's just life, and it's better than being a criminal. She recoiled as if I had slapped her. I'm not a criminal, she whispered. I'm an entrepreneur. I shook my head. I pushed the last document toward her. It was a single page, drafted by Raina Sloan. This is an acknowledgement of facts. I said, it states that you did not have permission to use the property. It states that you accept full liability for the deposits collected. It states that you will cooperate with any fraud investigation regarding Bright Harbor. Tessa looked at the paper. She didn't touch it. What is this? It's your way out. I said, you sign this. We take it to the police. You turn yourself in as a victim of Bright Harbor who was coerced into these schemes. Raina thinks if you cooperate, if you help them go after Lyle and the organization, you can avoid charges for the mail fraud and the listing. Turn myself in? She asked, her voice rising. You want me to go to the police and tell them I'm a scammer? I want you to tell them the truth so you don't go to prison. I said. Tessa laughed. It was a dark, ugly sound. You just want to see me humiliated, she said. You want to see me in handcuffs. That's what this is. You're jealous. You've always been jealous. Sign the paper. Tessa, no. She pushed it back toward me. I am not signing that. I am not ruining my reputation. I can fix this. I can call Lyle. I can get a loan. I can fix it. You can't fix it. I said, the listing is down. The money is gone. The police have the report. Tessa stared at me. Her eyes narrowed. The fear evaporated, replaced by something cold and sharp. It was the look of a predator who realizes the trap has closed and decides to chew through the bone to get out. If you pursue this, she said, her voice low and steady, I will destroy you. I looked at her. How? I will tell Mom you're having a mental breakdown, she said. I will tell the aunts you hit me. I will tell everyone that you invited us, that you planned it all, and then you snapped and kicked us out because you're unstable. No one will believe you. I said, I have the evidence. Family doesn't care about evidence. Stella, she said, family cares about the story. And I am a much better storyteller than you. She leaned in closer. I will make you the villain. I will make you so toxic that no one will speak to you. You will have your house, Stella. But you will have nobody to invite into it. You will be alone, just like you deserve. The threat washed over me. It was quiet. It was intimate. It was believable. She knew exactly where to hit me. The fear of isolation. The fear of being the unlovable one. But as I looked at her, I realized something. I was already alone. I had been alone for years, even when I was surrounded by them, because I was the only one living in reality. The threat didn't scare me. It liberated me. I stood up. The metal chair scraped against the wood again. I looked down at her. She looked small in the growing dark. You're right, I said. I chose the house. What? She asked, confused. You said I'd regret choosing a house over blood. I said, but the house has walls. The house keeps me safe. You just take... I reached into my pocket and pulled out a $20 bill. I placed it on the table, on top of the unsigned affidavit, for the coffee. I said, I didn't wait for her to answer. I turned around and walked away. I heard her chair screech as she stood up. Stella, she screamed. Everyone turned to look. Stella, don't you walk away from me. I'm talking to you. I kept walking. I walked past the tourists eating their clam strips. I walked past the fishermen. I walked off the wood of the pier and onto the solid asphalt of the street. I didn't look back. My hands started to shake when I reached the car. I had to sit in the driver's seat for 5 minutes, breathing through the adrenaline, before I could turn the key. But I didn't cry. I had shed enough tears for Tessa Hale. 3 days later, the Coast Stay listing was removed. I didn't get a notification. It just vanished. 1 minute it was there, the next it was a 404 error page. I thought that was the end of it. I thought the digital erasure meant the danger was gone. I was wrong. On Wednesday morning, a car pulled into my driveway. It was a rental sedan. A man and a woman got out. They were dressed for vacation. Shorts, sun hats. They walked up to my front porch and knocked. I opened the door. Keeping the chain latch on, Can I help you? I asked. Hi, the woman smiled. We're checking in. The Hale reservation? My heart stopped. You booked online? I asked. Yes, through Coast Stay, she said. We confirmed it last week. We've been driving since Ohio. Is Tessa here? She said the key would be in the lockbox. I looked at them. They were real people. They had driven hundreds of miles. They had paid money. Money that was now sitting in a Bright Harbor account. Or perhaps already spent on Lyle Brandt's commission. I had to tell them, I'm sorry. I said. I unlocked the door and opened it fully. Not to let them in, but to look them in the eye. You've been scammed. The conversation that followed was brutal. The confusion, the denial, the anger. The woman cried. The man shouted and kicked my porch railing. They showed me their confirmation email. It was from Reset Your Life 2026. I gave them the police report number. I gave them Raina's card. I offered them water, which they refused. They left, tires spinning on the gravel, swearing to sue everyone involved. I locked the door. I sat on the floor of the foyer. Tessa was gone, but the ghosts of her lies were still arriving on my doorstep. That afternoon, I received an email. It wasn't from Tessa. It was from a domain I recognized. Legal Bright Harbor Collective, com. Subject: Notice regarding defamatory statements. Stella Wright. I opened it. Dear Ms. Wright, it has come to our attention that you have made several public statements regarding Bright Harbor Collective and our associated independent contractors. We wish to clarify that Ms. Tessa Hale is an independent enrollee in our mentorship program and is not an employee or authorized agent of Bright Harbor. Any business dealings, property listings, or financial transactions conducted by Ms. Hale were done without the knowledge or sanction of Bright Harbor Collective. While we regret any confusion regarding your property, we must insist that you cease referencing our organization in relation to allegations of fraud. Failure to comply will result in immediate legal action for defamation and tortious interference with our business. Sincerely, the legal team at Bright Harbor. I read it twice. It was polished. It was cold. It was a classic corporate distance tactic. They were cutting Tessa loose. They were disavowing her. She was just an independent contractor who had gone rogue. They kept the money, and she took the fall. But the threat was there. Shut up, or we will bury you. I forwarded the email to Raina. Then I called her. They're scared, Raina said. They don't sound scared. I said, they sound like they have a building full of lawyers. They're scared because you're noisy, Raina said. Scammers hate noise. They like silence. They like shame. You broke the pattern. So what do? I asked. Do I stop? That depends, Raina said. Do you want peace, or do you want justice? I looked out the window. The ocean was gray and choppy. I thought about the couple from Ohio. I thought about Arden Pike, losing her deposit. I thought about Tessa, sitting somewhere terrified and alone, convinced that I was the villain. While Lyle Brandt counted her money, if I stopped, Bright Harbor would just find another Tessa. They would find another sister, another house, another desperate woman to exploit. I don't want peace. I said, not that kind of peace. Then we don't sue them. Raina said, we don't give them a target for a defamation suit. We go around them. What does that mean? It means we file a formal complaint with the Federal Trade Commission. Raina said, we file with the State Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. We submit the evidence of the pyramid structure, the coaching contracts, the pressure to commit fraud. Regulatory bodies don't care about defamation suits. They care about patterns. And Tessa? I asked. Tessa is a witness, Raina said, whether she wants to be or not. I hung up. I sat at my desk. I opened my laptop. I went to a forum I had found the night before. Anti-MLM Coalition. I created an account. User: Seaborn Stella. I typed a subject line: Bright Harbor Collective, Real Estate Fraud Scheme. I began to type. I didn't use names. I didn't use emotion. I used facts. I described the pitch deck. I described the pressure to control the narrative. I described the fake rental listings. Has anyone else experienced this? I asked at the end. I hit post. I waited. 10 minutes later, a reply. User, recovering coach. 22 says, they told me to list my parents' vacation cabin. I lost everything. DM me. Another reply. User, Blue Sky 44 says, my sister is in this program. She's currently trying to rent out a venue she doesn't own. How did you stop it? I looked at the screen. I wasn't alone. Tessa had tried to isolate me. She had tried to make me an island. But in her greed, she had connected me to a vast, invisible network of other people who had been burned by the same fire. I wasn't just a sister anymore. I was a node in a resistance. I looked at the list of boundaries taped to my kitchen cabinet. 1. No guests. 2. No hosting. 3. No family drama. 4. Fight. I picked up the pen. I didn't cross anything out. I added a 5th rule. 5. Tell the truth. I stood up and walked to the back door. I unlocked it. I walked out onto the deck. The sun was gone. The stars were out. Sharp and cold and brilliant. The ocean roared. A sound of immense, indifferent power. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from my mother. You have destroyed this family. I looked at the text. I didn't feel the sting. I felt the weight of the phone in my hand, a tool I could use to build something new. I deleted the thread. I breathed in the salt air. It tasted like freedom. I was Stella Wright. I owned this house, and for the first time in my life, I owned my own story. And I was just getting started. Thank you for listening to this story. It was a journey into the messy, uncomfortable reality of setting boundaries with the people we are supposed to love the most. I would love to hear from you. Please comment below and tell me where you are listening from. Have you ever had to draw a hard line with a family member? How did you handle it? If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to Revenge Stories for more realistic, emotional dramas about justice and the human condition. Share your thoughts in English in the comments. I read every single one. Until next time, protect your peace.